Hi guys, welcome back to the Library of Alexandria. And today, guys, it is the return, the long-awaited return of my wrap-ups. And no, this is not a wrap-up from September, as you would expect from my wrap-ups. No, I have turned over a new leaf. This is a wrap-up from January. What? But Alan, it's still in the first 2 weeks of February. Surely not. Yes, surely so. So anyway, I read 5 books in January. I read part of another book. I read 3 short stories that are by KJ Parker, and then 1 audiobook. And guys, it is just starting with a disappointing month because I DNF'd. I usually have 1 DNF a year, and it was in January, and it was the audiobook, and I'll tell you why in a second, because the other 5 books that I read were all 5 stars! Oh my gosh! The year starting with the 5-star strumpet, cornering the market! Oh! Who even knows how high the 5-star strumpet can rise in this economy? Oh my gosh. $5 stars for every book I read this month. And I even tried to be like more critical. I was like, do I really think that? Yes, I freaking do. Like, I'm trying not to make everything 5 stars. But I should stop enjoying all the books I'm reading, I suppose. So, without wasting any more time, let's get down to business. Let's talk about these gems, but first clearing out the DNF. So, I DNF'd Ashes of the Sun by Django Wexler. And I was listening to this on audiobook with Bookborn, because Bookborn is going to be interviewing Django Wexler and Fonda Lee at her local bookstore because she lives in a city that has those things. We just have a crappy Books A Million. She wanted to read some Wexler because she's never read him before, and so Ashes of the Sun theoretically should have been the most her thing because he flat out said that he wrote it after having a debate about Star Wars. And I had read this in October of 2020, so 4 months after I started my channel. And I was not as hard on this book as I need to be. This is the first book that I have actively liked less on audio than I did the first time I read it. Because usually I reread them and I enjoy them more on audio than I did the first time I read them. I don't like this book at all. It's so bad, made worse by the audio. And I just, it's nothing against the narrator. I haven't listened to anything else that she's done. But I don't like any of the voices. And worse than that, I hate every character in it, including the return of that character that I freaking hated the first time. The one who embodies the danger makes me Randy trope, which I freaking hate. So I didn't like it, and so I stopped listening to it so I could listen to something else. So that's disappointing, because usually I only have 1 DNF a year, maybe 2. But yeah, so I had to DNF that because I didn't want to listen to it any longer. So that sucks, but it leaves room for the good stuff that I read this month. So I read 3 KJ Parker stories. They're fine, like 4 stars, 3.5 stars. I rarely rate KJ Parker's short fiction 5 stars, and if I do, they're the novellas. The short stories I almost never give 5 stars to because they always lack something. I may not be the biggest fan of KJ Parker's short fiction. Whatever. It doesn't matter. They were fine. I would be hard-pressed to tell you what any of them were really about. So, let's talk about the books that I read this month. First on the list, we've got Boosh, A Shade of Madness by Thiago Abdallah. So, again, this was an arc. I have a full review of it, up here, if you want to go check it out. An arc was graciously granted to me by my friend, who is also the author, Thiago Abdallah, and I think this is kind of better than Touch of Light in pretty much every way. It is exciting, and yet there is still an area of mystery about it. Unlike in the first book, we have an intertwining of storylines. We have an added character, which is a type of character I really, really like. There are more griffins, for those of you who longed for more avian fantasy creatures from the first one. And I mean, it's just a wild roller coaster ride. Like the final act of this, as I've said, is just high octane roller coaster ride to the finish, and it leaves us desperately, desperately wanting that third book. So check out that review and go buy it. Go support Chiago. Next on this 5-star runaway train is Boosh, Small Gods by Terry Pratchett. So I began this kind of when I was in a slump in December. I just started picking up random stuff, like hoping to bust me out of it. And then I got out of the slump before I actually finished Small Gods, so I went back and finished it this month. And I am really, really glad that I did. I really, really enjoy Small Gods, 5 stars for sure. And I hear there's a ton of talk when people talk about where to start with Discworld. Like, everyone is convinced that they're right in where they should start. Some people want you should start with Color of Magic no matter what. Some people think you should start with Small Gods because it's their favorite book ever. I think you should start with The Watch. Bunches of people get lured and duped into starting with the Death books and then are really mad that Death's barely in them. Small Gods is an excellent book, especially the back half of it. The first half is a little slow. You have to kind of really like Athens, but it really kicks it into high gear and is incredibly emotional and poignant and thought-provoking in that, and exciting in that back half. But Small Gods is one of the most, in my opinion, overrated Discworld books. A lot of people froth at the mouth and like really, really love Small Gods. And it's not everyone. Some people just really, really connect with it and really, really like Brother and Ohm. And if you know the premise of Small Gods, the great god Ohm, of which the Omnians are his worshippers. The Omnians appear in various other Discworld books. He, because of lack of belief, has become a tortoise. And he is dropped by an eagle into the garden of this dumb monk/priest named Brother. And it's hilarious watching him like threaten to, zap Brother, and he has like no power at all. Like, he just wants to make lettuce appear, and he wants people to believe in him, but Brother is just, he's kind of like Carrot, in which he takes everything like very, very literally, but he has a like photographic memory, so he remembers everything of scripture like ever. And Small Gods does have one of the best villains in Vorbis, who is just this awful, awful inquisitor. But some people, I feel some people are rabid about Small Gods because it does examine the question, like, what if people who claim to be religious don't actually believe what they're saying and instead use it as a tool for personal power and glory? Or what if some fanatics do horrible things in the name of religion? And a lot of people are like super like frenzied about that, as if no one has ever asked those questions. Like, yeah, like, obviously. And so I think some people just like really, really hate all religion, and so really like champion this book as being like anti that. And it's not. It's just like, hey, what if we didn't murder people in the name of, of our God that none of us actually believe in? We just use it as a tool, for power. So it's a great book, but it's not my favorite. And it's not, if you see me doing this, I'm petting this cat who is here comfortable in his chair. Oh, there you go. Bye, Gus. So I love Small Gods. I'm glad I pushed through, because I almost like put it down because I'm like, you know what, I'm out of my slump. But I did and the second half of this book is really, really good. So Small Gods, 5 stars. Next on the list, we've got Boosh, Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. And so this book, this was completely unexpected. I didn't expect to read it. I found it like on a whim in a bookstore. I had heard Charmaine and the brothers Gwyn talk about it. And it is the Iliad, but from Briseis, one of the female captives' perspectives. And where I don't like every retelling because I don't really understand their purpose, I really, really thought this had some important things to say. There was a reason that we were examining it from this perspective. one of my favorite things is the perspective that it puts Achilles and Patroclus and Odysseus and Ajax and Agamemnon in. It's just such a different way to look at these Greek generals and heroes. It is uncomfortable to read because she is a female slave and everything that goes with that. It is uncomfortable to read. There's a lot of F-bombs up in this book, which, is not my favorite thing, but it was a very, very haunting and uncomfortable and really, really and very powerful read for me. I'm not in a mad rush to read the next one because the kind of setup, I'm not certain I'm going to like the premise of the next one quite as much, but it is excellent, absolutely worth a read, if for no other reason than to find more ammunition on why freaking Achilles sucks. Achilles sucks. He's always sucked. I have a full review of that right here. You can go check that out if you want. All right, number 4 on the 5-star books that I read this month is Boosh! Tyranny of Faith by Richard Swan, and this is book 2 of the Empire of the Wolf trilogy, sequel to Justice of Kings. I should have a full review of this up by the time this goes up. Right here, you can check it out. I loved this book as much as the first one. Everything is bigger, the scale is bigger, the relationships are deeper, the horror element is ratcheted up, the mystery is even more interesting, the geopolitics of ruling an empire is fascinating, but what I love, and what I always love about books like this, is the exploration of justice, and what does it mean to be just, and enforcing the law, and what that means, and fairness of the law, and talking about treason, and demagoguery, and it is just filled with so many things that I really, really enjoy. And the relationships between Von Vault and his squad, if you will, it's just really well written and believable, and you really care about these characters that could easily have fallen into these kind of stereotypical, like, cardboard cutouts, but instead feel like living, breathing human beings who actually have concerns and argue amongst themselves. It's always great when the party argues, but not to the point where nothing gets done and they're just freaking annoying. But people don't always get along, and they don't always see eye to eye. And so I loved Tyranny of Faith. It is, the last section. I love all these books that have just amazing last sections that just make it hard to put down. Sova feels huge. The threat feels real. Suspenseful the entire way. You should absolutely check it out, especially if you love Justice Kings. You will not be disappointed with this one. And so before I talk about my final and favorite book of the month, I'll talk about what I'm playing. I'm not really watching anything because I caught up with One Piece. So I'm playing, and really the only reason I'm talking about this is so I can include literally my favorite clip of this game.
It was a griffin, an arch-griffin, in fact. In that case, I'm grateful. Arch-grateful.
So I've been playing in the month of January. I've been playing the Witcher 3, the PS5 update.
It was a griffin, an arch-griffin, in fact. In that case, I'm grateful. Arch-grateful.
Because I played it back when it came out, and it's one of my favorite games of all time, and so this was a good excuse to pick it up again, and it's just as good. It's just as good as the last time. I thought I would play a different build and make different choices. I did not. Well, I did with the Bloody Baron, but I still went with Triss because Yennefer, like, how does anyone go with Yennefer?
It was a griffin, an arch-griffin, in fact. In that case, I'm grateful. Arch-grateful.
And I don't care what the book says. She's such a douchebag. She doesn't, oh my gosh. Like, Geralt is sitting there trying not to cause an international incident, and Yennefer's like, well, I don't care, I gotta do this. Like, whatever, Yen. Like, go do it yourself. Ugh, I hate Yennefer. I hate her so much. Like, I don't ever say the nice thing to her in this. Like Geralt is such a simp in this freaking game. There's always just like a, oh my gosh, you look beautiful. Geralt, stop! And would you pay attention to Croc-on Crate, please?
It was a griffin, an arch-griffin, in fact. In that case, I'm grateful. Arch-grateful.
So, anyway, I went with Triss because I cannot stand Geralt around. You know how when your, friend starts dating someone, and your friend is cool, but then they start dating, and your friend becomes insufferable? That's freaking Geralt with Yennefer. Like, he's not that way with Triss. He's insufferable around Yennefer, so I can't even deal with it. But this is my favorite clip of the freaking Witcher.
It was a griffin, an arch-griffin, in fact. In that case, I'm grateful. Arch-grateful.
And I don't know why. It is my favorite. It's just my favorite line in the whole freaking game. So I'm playing that. I'm in Skellige. I need to finish it up before Crossbell 2 or Trails to Azure comes out in March. So I'm still working on that, but I mean, it's so good. It's so good. And finally, my favorite book of the month, shockingly, is Boosh! Imperium by Robert Harris. This is book 1 of the Cicero trilogy. And we read this for the, this is the first month of the read along of this series, and I loved this book so much more than I thought I was. It is just a gripping courtroom drama, and I love a frame narrative, and I love courtroom drama, and I love ancient Rome. So just like Augustus had so many things that are just geared towards my personal taste, Imperium was the same way. And I love the political maneuvering. I hate to see all the horse trading that has to be done because all of these people are so flippin' corrupt. But I love a good trial and a good, demagogic speech. It's just so good. And Cicero is such a twerp. He's just a twerp, and I understand why, because he needs that dignitas that his family doesn't possess, so he needs to be important, but he's such a twerp, but he is just a brilliant orator, and he's the best put-down artist, ever. He is super hot fire. Where Cicero, if someone leaves an opening, it is a compulsion that Cicero cannot leave it alone. He must take the shot, must make the jab, because he's compelled to. And it's just so fascinating and so interesting. And the fact that almost all of it is actually historically accurate makes it that much better. I could not have loved this book if I tried. I read it so fast. I had trouble putting it down. Absolutely amazing. Me and Kyle and Anitha had a discussion about it, so you can check that out. I also didn't say that I read the first 2 sections of Shogun, and Shogun is just as wonderful as I remember it being. I just love that historical period. I love the third-person omniscient. You can check out my the discussion that I had on the first 2 parts with Alex and Joanna and Tori, and it's just wonderful. I cannot wait to finish this book. This book will be 5 stars, by the way. There's no way it's not. So it's just a phenomenal book. So guys, the 5-star Strumpet was out and about this month. I am so pleased with the month that I had in January. I hope that February is just as killer with the 5 stars. Keep them coming. And don't worry. It's not like, oh, I can't listen to anything Alan says because he likes everything. I don't. I've just picked up things that I like. I have no problem telling you if I don't like a book. Lion of Macedon, I'm looking at you, 2 stars. I just read a KJ Parker story. That's the worst thing I've read all year. It's my least liked KJ Parker thing ever. I hated it so much. So, I just happened to luck out and really, really enjoy the reading experience I've had since the beginning of the year. So I'm hoping it's a new year, and I hope that bodes well for me being able to walk soon, because you know what I'd really enjoy? You know what I would give 5 stars? Ambulation. Unassisted ambulation. So anyway, guys, what was the favorite thing that you read in January? That's all for me for today, but as always, information about my Patreon and Discord is down in the description, and I'll see you next time, guys.